wellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, featuring your hosts Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner. And today's podcast is the Masterclass is back, because that had such a great resonance last time we did several of them.
Yeah.
When was that? Back in September, October?
Yeah, late last year.
So this one is a masterclass on effortless transitions with our kids. And so we're going to take the conversation very much around transitional states for ourselves, for our children, you know, even transitions as small as getting out of the house versus the big ones like going to school or childcare. Before we jump into that, we'd love to remind you to jump onto nourishingthemother.com.au and sign up to join our tribe. On the homepage there is a button to press, and you will then drop in your email address, and once a week we will send you a newsletter. And that wraps up everything we've put out in the world with links and a little bit of a blurb on it, so you can pick and choose where you'd love to dive deeper. Yes. And occasionally we send you a second email where we've had a particular, you know, thought process, epiphany, awakening, conversation, you know, something we'd share between ourselves that we think would probably light your fire too. So jump on to nourishingthemother.com.au and sign up to join our tribe.
And I love that we're kicking off our masterclass with this topic, because I think transitions itself can be a little bit overwhelming, particularly for mothers with young children who are thinking about perhaps adding to their family and thinking, how the hell am I going to do this?
Yeah, that's true. That's another big transition.
It is. But I mean, the fear and the overwhelm and the constant questioning about how you're going to manage that, it comes from this idea of how I can't even do X, Y, Z, how am I going to do that? And I think it's one of those things, when you figure out how to get the smaller things working, you all of a sudden then have this sense of capacity for managing the bigger things. And I said to Jules, this is probably a good topic to kick off with, because it's funny, I was just reflecting, we're about I don't know how many weeks we are, 6 or 7 weeks into school now. And I'm like, I haven't yelled once to get out the door. What is this?
I think you're the Messiah.
Well, I wasn't last year in kinder year. So, and I think probably because I've got a lot more to juggle with a long school drive and stuff, I have to be more mindful and more organised.
That's so interesting.
And I was having a chat about it to a school mum who was saying, yeah, she's like, I just realised, I've got all these routines for the kids, but I don't have these same, routines for myself. And I was like, that's where it is. It's so much about governing ourselves and putting, the things in place to help ourselves get ready and get out the door, so that we can then assist our children too. Because if we don't have our kind of ship on path, like, it's really, really hard to ask anybody else around us to be focused and ready to go for the day. And we talk about this, don't we, a lot? You have to be the captain of your mothership, or it's gonna go to shit.
Yeah.
And you, particularly as a mother of 4, have largely nailed that, I think, a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know where to take the conversation on that. I'm just interested in the transition for you between, can we go there, between
kinder and
between kinder and school, because essentially, right, you're still the same woman. They're still the same kids.
Yes.
So what's changed?
I think that it's, for me, setting in my head and burning into my brain, we've got to do this and be this at this place every single day of the week. There is no, on this day we get to do this and on that day we get to do that, and there's no floatiness around it. It's commitment. This is what we're doing. There is no like choice or option out of it. Therefore, I need to figure out what I need to bring to my mornings or to the night before even, so that I can deliver on that, need to show up.
It's so interesting to me that you framed it as commitment.
Why is that?
I just find that really interesting, that in your mind you have, obviously, I would say, a high value on relationship, which is essentially what commitment is.
Yeah.
And that when you're able to almost compartmentalize school as a relationship, your commitment and therefore your organisation is bang there. Don't you think that's interesting?
It is. And I think also I recognise that how well Hugo's likely to go with the school drop-off is going to be as a result of how well I've set him up for that.
Tell me about that.
Well, there's going to be, in my mind, there's going to be less resistance to going if the more solid and concrete and connected I am with the choice of us to go and the choice of us to leave the house when we do and the choice that I make for us to, you know, play around what we play around in order to get out the door or, you know, in the car to prepare for school. I think all of those things are little, you know, kind of markers for how well he is able to disconnect from me for the day and go into his day, which is still a huge like leap for him. And he's still, I can see him working through a lot of what's going on there. And I know that the more I can self-govern myself and know what I need in order to get him there, the better he's going to do there. Is sort of my belief around it.
So walk us through what that looks like for you and what that looks like for him, because when you say, you know, I do what I need to do to play through it and to, you know, whatever it was that you just said. Can you walk us through that?
Well, for me, it was looking at, first of all, what are the things that shit me the most in trying to get out the door? So it's like not being able to find shoes, not being able to find uniforms, not having a lunch ready or having things to pack for lunch. So I had to first self-reflect on all the parts of this puzzle of getting out the door that don't work for me and put in place preparation so that those things are gone. Because those things, it's like that. It's like you keep banging your head against a wall. It's like the same thing all of the time, and yet why do you keep running into it? So I needed to create solutions for all of those issues so that then I could be with whatever else might come up. Because, you know, having a toddler as well who may or may not want to go, which, I mean, luckily for us, she's super cool and was happy to do whatever, but not all. I mean, I totally expect that she might hit a time when she doesn't want to go. So then I have to build in 15 minutes to help her get ready to get in the car. Because the kids are always changing and shifting. So that all of the known things that I know are going to be triggers for me, I put in place preparation, like making a lunch the night before, or at least knowing what's going to go in the lunchbox, making sure that Hugo's put his shoes somewhere where he can find them, making sure that he knows where all of his school clothes are, making sure that his bag is empty from the day before and has, you know, is ready for everything to get packed back in. Like the stuff that is like a no-brainer, but yet sometimes if we're a bit flighty about our week or whatever, we can just keep running into as issues.
Yeah. Also because you're tired at night and you're like, oh, just do it tomorrow.
Totally.
Right? Tomorrow.
Yeah. And it just becomes that constant thing and put on the list.
Just keep hitting the chaos.
Yeah. And then in terms of the elements of play, it would be when, you know, sometimes he might say, it's only been once or twice where he said, I don't want to go to school. And I'm like, oh, you don't want to go to school. As opposed to in the past, sometimes I might have that instant, what do you mean you don't want to go? You've got to go. I've got all these things you have to do. I have to do, you know, because that's the thing sometimes. That's the dialogue for us. But I have to put aside that anxiety or whatever that feeling is in me to go, I hear you. And it's that, I think it's like that principle, you know, there's one of the 7 habits of highly effective people. And one of them is seek first to understand and then to be understood. And so I think so much when we're busy as mothers, it can be like seek first to be understood, you know, and then go, I wonder why they were doing that. Whereas I try as much as I can to understand what's going on first so I can respond to that and then bring in what I want to be understood on.
It's the connection before correction.
It is. It's another way of saying that, isn't it? And so, you know, sometimes, you know, he's got into bed and he said he doesn't want to go. And I'll simply just sit with that, you know, not even have to tell him you're going because he knows he's going. He just needs to feel heard about not wanting to go. And that mirror reflection back that makes safe that feeling for him without any push from me yet to need to change that feeling.
I love it.
So that's sometimes what I do. And it's funny, it's almost like simply being heard for all of us. Simply just being heard takes the heat out of something because then you're like, oh, someone understands me. That's all I wanted. I just wanted someone to listen.
And now I can move through.
Now I'm like, oh, I got that out. Now I can look forward.
I don't need to hang on to it.
Yeah.
So and those feelings aren't creating havoc in my body anymore because they've had a place for cathartic release.
Yeah. They've been able to be, they're not kind of tight in your chest
bouncing
or
around.
You know, stuck in your throat or wherever they're sitting. So that's another one. What else?
No, I think that's genius. It's totally what I do.
Yeah.
I actually love what you said where I worked out all the parts that weren't working and then I worked out solutions for all of those parts.
Yeah.
And I commit to those solutions. And then the problem disappears.
And it's funny, and you don't even indulge not doing it, because as soon as you indulge not doing it, it's like, oh, I don't want to. You're like, oh no, it's not an option. Like, we're just doing this. Shut up. Shut up, internal dialogue.
I know, it's working through your own resistance at times, isn't it, as well? Yeah, look, that's totally what I've done as well, is I actually created a couple of sheets that got stuck up, and then when my kids were littler, they were in picture format, and then once they could read, they were in word format. Yeah. And so we call them morning jobs and night jobs. Great. And so before they have screen time, before there's playtime, have you done your night jobs? Have you done your morning jobs? And, you know, sometimes early on we had pictures and they had like a tick the box, like a whiteboard marker kind of tick the box, you know, because we just laminated the sheet. And then as they've got older, they just kind of review the list themselves. And it sort of takes that sting out. And I also realised I don't have to do it all, that they're quite capable of doing many of the multiple tasks that I perceived I had to do. Which
I think is that getting to that point is also genius, because you recognize, I don't have to take all of the mother load, because when I empower my children to do some things for themselves, it not only frees me up, but it's actually a gift to them.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
they're self-reliant.
They become self-reliant. And the thing is, I know, like, my dad picked up after us all of the time. And that's actually just quite disempowering, like, to have someone pick up after you.
Tell me about that.
Well, I think that was his way of showing love. So one of his acts of...
He never asked you to pick up, he just did it for you.
He would do it, you know, and even he does it now. Like, if we go there, like, he'll just take all of our dishes and he'll just, you know, like, pot around, and it's almost like having waited on, you know. Wow. And that's his act of love, you know, his acts of service. You know, he's not a really, he can't speak about his emotions. He can't sort of deeply have a big D&C. Sorry, big D and C, what the fuck? Big D and M. Why am I even talking about miscarriage right now? I don't know. But anyway, big D and M.
It's on the radar though, isn't it? Because we've found this gorgeous site segue. We found this absolutely gorgeous couple at MummyCon that we are currently in email conversation with to interview, and it was around pregnancy loss. I think we've probably got that in our
got that on our brain. So sorry about that little segue. But yeah, my dad's not that person who will sit and hold my space and have this amazing conversation, but he will do incredible acts of service. You know, he would always pick me up from parties, like, wouldn't even like flinch, and that was his way. And I'm deeply grateful for that. But I can also see where, you know, it can make kids lazy.
We just want to take a moment to talk to you about our aligned parenting program, which has very much been created from both myself and Bridget, from our hearts and our minds, and our years of parenting wisdom, which is very much built upon a foundation of every conscious parenting book that's ever been written, every in-person experience that could possibly have
manifested.
Yeah, absolutely. And we realised we still got to this point where we had no understanding or deeper insight beyond our children's needs, and we needed to feel into our own bodies and our own minds and our own sense of desire and want in this world as much as within our relationship. And we didn't know where to go beyond children's needs.
And it's a relationship like no other, that parent-child dynamic. You know, it's not something that just comes naturally if we seek to both raise children with strong emotional intelligence and grow as women and mothers and partners and wives.
So what we've done is opened our aligned parenting program up for lifetime access.
Yeah, so that's $197 in one payment, or you can have it in 3 payments of $66. And what that means is that you get instant access to all of our course material, and you'll also go into our private Facebook group with our tribe and another group where we will facilitate bi-monthly live webinars, and we'll also have facilitation with you after those webinars to hash out any conscious parenting dynamic that you find yourself in and where you want to really upskill.
And that's for lifetime. So we really invite you to jump into aligned parenting programming with us, where we really work on creating deeper insight and greater connection within your world. So what is the disempowering part for you then? So your dad's shown you love in the form of service and picked up after you, and you never had to take responsibility for that aspect. How do you perceive that to be disempowering to you as the child of that, now as the adult of that?
Well, I think as a child, it makes you think that everybody else is going to pick up after you, and that you don't have to have self-responsibility to, you know, follow through on what you've created. Like, if you've created, you know, a mess,
someone else will clean up your mess.
Yeah, someone else will clean up your mess for you. I don't think that that's very empowering. But I know that the flip of that, there's a lot of cultures where, you know, mothers will do everything for their children, you know, and even adult children, even wash their clothes and things like that, which I just go, like I have a problem with that because I feel like it's, and you know, on some level, is it a bad thing or is it actually effective outsourcing? I don't know, like which way you want to look at it. Yeah. But certainly for me, I mean, I know that my void perhaps on that feeling of disempowerment around things always being done for me like that is, you know, really inspires me to help my children learn to have self-responsibility and look after their things and know where to get their own water and, you know how to do things for themselves as opposed to things being done for them. And I mean, I recognize that we've always got both sides. Like I was also someone who got a job really young and was self-reliant in that way. But I can see how sometimes the very things that we think are love and we think are a great gift and that we should do these things for our children can actually be robbing them of the opportunity to learn how capable they are within themselves. And I mean, that's absolutely what I love about the education that I've chosen for Hugo, which is all about help me do it myself and building internal discipline, likely from my own perception of some kind of lack in that area, because we're always giving our children what we perceived was missing for us.
No, keep going.
Keep going. I'm confused whenever you look.
Sorry, because I'm paranoid about it now. We've had the mummy con. I have this moment where I'm like, just check and then you can be present again. Sorry.
It's okay.
I'll let it.
Okay. So, you know, this is a bit of a segue to the topic today, but so much of our children, so much of what they are representing to us are areas for us to grow through ourselves, you know, and whether that be what do I need to do to empower myself so that I can help this ship sail more smoothly in terms of the transitions that we make every day versus what are the pain points for me that I still have around my own childhood and how they being reflected to me now through my children and how can I, you know, heal that in a way that is empowering for both myself and my child as opposed to putting a Band-Aid on a wound and soothing and keeping both of us stuck in this dance between what I'm trying to find, what I'm trying to soothe that I think I didn't get when I was a child. It's such a lovely, beautiful, delicate dance that we always find ourselves in at whatever level our children are at. But when we can bring more awareness to them, we can start to choose more consciously what we want to continue with and what we want to let go of. I think
you're right. Do you want me to tell you what's on my morning jobs and night jobs list?
I really want to know because we are at the point now of laminating because I forgot the library bag and the library books last week. So I'm like, okay, we need a sheet and you need to go and look at your sheet every day and see what we need to put in your bag.
Yeah.
So I would love to know what's on your morning and night jobs list.
Yeah, well, I have that stuff. So, and as the kids get older, they get things like diaries and there's sports day when the uniforms change. And then as the kids get older, you then have extracurricular activities as well. And one of my biggest pain points is needing to get out the door and no one can find the thing that they need to get out the door. It kills me. Like, if there is one surefire way to get me from 0 to 1,000, it is that. So the way that we avoid that is by preparation the night before. Yeah. So the night before they have to get out, literally lay out and pack everything they need for the next 24 hours. So that includes the right uniform, shoes, socks, undies for the next day. And it includes anything they need to pack, including water bottles for extracurricular activities. So it's literally just pick up a bag and walk out the door.
Do you do this with your 4-year-old as well?
Yeah, I do.
You hard ass.
Well, it's just easy. She actually loves it. Do you know, she's even role-playing homework at the moment.
Really?
She freaking loves it. Let me tell you, if there is a child that is built for
the school system.
Oh, it is. Well, my eldest as well, which is how we ended up in the mainstream school system, but it is her. She is like, loves it. She loves, if it is black, white, rule, routine, freaking loves it. Which is gold. Yeah. And also because
perfect for the lifestyle that you have, like in terms of being adaptable but
it's also responsibility. She actually loves having responsibility. And I actually don't think I actually think there's lots of kids, because it's a form of power and control in a day that's otherwise powerless.
Yeah.
So if they get to have more power and control over and autonomy over themselves and their lives, I actually see that as empowering as opposed to disempowering.
Me too.
So we just include her in it. I mean, you know, not I don't have quite the same level of
expectation.
Yes, yes. But you know, for her to, you know, Lola, have you got your shoes out? Have you got your Kinder bag packed? You know, like that's all great stuff for her to be doing. Morning jobs also include, they unpack the dishwasher and any dish draining stuff the next morning. So they always do it every morning, and their job is the chickens every morning. And yeah, I think that's all they do in the morning. And then their night jobs include when they get in from school or kinder, that they unpack their bags, they wash their own
lunchbox.
Thank you, lunchbox. Because I still make the lunchboxes. I know there's lots of mums around me that have handballed that to their kids. I can't let it go. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I grew up with, you know, having to, by the time I was in prep, I was making my own lunchboxes.
Yeah.
And I used to, even in high school, look at my friends who still had these like beautiful, remember this one friend, her mum used to like wrap pieces of homemade cake in like Glad Bake, you know, and I used to watch her unwrap her lunchbox and be like, there's so much love in that lunchbox. I want a hand-wrapped cake. You know, And now I really want to do that. I want to be the mum who's sending the home-wrapped cake.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
But that's come out of a void, right?
Totally.
It's also
and
because
is, right?
Yeah. And also because I have a high value in health.
Food and health, yeah.
Exactly. And so it is a form of showing love for me. Like your dad, he picks up the toys in the house.
Yeah.
I pick up the lunch boxes and I love doing it, and I don't want to give it up. But if they want their lunchbox packed by me, they have to have it washed, clean and dried, ready for me to do the night before, because that is something I changed when I had my fourth baby, was because babyhood takes up way more time in the mornings. And I used to make the lunchboxes fresh in the morning because the others they'd all get themselves dressed, ready, and bags and everything were done from the night before. So my responsibility in the mornings had almost dissipated.
Yeah.
Plus they're doing their own breakfast and the dishwasher and the chickens. Like they
were doing everything. Yeah,
I just got to sit down and have a coffee with my husband. Get myself organised.
I love it.
Maybe do some washing. But having a baby, that had to change because I couldn't guarantee the time that I used to have to make lunchboxes was pretty much gone. So I changed from doing lunchboxes in the morning to doing lunchboxes the night before. And if they want me to do their lunchboxes, they need to have their lunchboxes cleaned and ready on the bench for me to do it. And if it's not there, that's fine. I'm not going to chase them for it. But then they have to make their lunchbox, which sometimes they actually really want to do. And then I have to sit with,
am I ready to let this go?
And often there's way more sugar in the lunchbox than, you know, what I was otherwise
that's
packed.
interesting too.
Yeah. So, night jobs. So night jobs are, school bags unpacked, lunchboxes done, clothes in the wash that need to be in the wash, clothes out for the next day, extracurriculars out for the next day. Homework done. So they pick days that they do their homework. So they need to do homework 20 minutes twice a week. And because we're so busy with extracurriculars, they both have chosen and scheduled into the family calendar when they have their homework time.
Yeah.
So they've nominated those days and they self-regulate those. And we have things like library bag or diary in the bag for the next day, diary signed, bits and pieces like that. And that's how we do it. So I largely don't organise my kids at all outside of have you done your morning jobs and have you done your night jobs. And if they do them, our whole morning is very cruisy.
Tell me about it if they don't.
If they haven't done their night jobs.
Tell me about what happens if they forget something. Do they learn a natural consequence from that? Or do you run in and save them? Like, you know, for instance, I think about that in terms of like forgetting something, you know, like their lunch or forgetting something else. And, you know, do you go and save them from that, or do you let them figure out the solution?
It's been a mix of both, actually. I can think of a couple of times that's happened and I'll be in the schoolyard or whatever. Well, look, and do you know what? The other interesting thing is that used to happen more when I was driving them to and from school, but now which will change next year when I have a prep, because I won't be sending riding to and from school every day. But at the moment I have a grade 5 and a grade 6 child and they ride together to and from school at least 4 days a week, because the 5th day usually we're there and we have extracurriculars we go straight from school from. But because they ride to and from school themselves, it has upped the ante on them needing to be, because there is no exit button.
Yeah.
Because I'm not there.
Yeah.
But when I was driving them, it would happen more often. They would forget their lunchbox. They've left their drink bottle. They forgot that it was, I don't know, sports today because they're doing a different activity rather than normal school uniform, or it was casual day and we're in uniform, or whatever it was. That definitely happened more often, and it would be a mix. I would check in with myself. Am I feeling like, that's cool, I'll just go and get it, no big deal? Or am I feeling like charged? It's fucking shit, I don't want to be dealing with this, because that would change how I roll with it. So if I was already angry, I would have to self-check myself, because them forgetting something is really just me, because I'm highly organised, but part of that is run on anxiety of not being enough, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because if I'm not totally organised and control this situation,
who am I and what am I worth? And
well, and what am I open up to, right? Because if I haven't made sure that I've looked after every eventual possibility that could be negative, and I've made sure that I put in plans to avoid any of that negative stuff, you know, because if I hit the rough patch, I look back at myself and go, what didn't you do? You know?
Yeah.
Which is totally genius, but also painful.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the times when they're doing that, I'm hitting my own sore spots with that, you know, and being a social outcast, being bullied if they're, you know, outside of the norms, everyone's in, you know, casual and they're in school uniform or whatever. So I have to do my own internal work, and depending on where I'm at, sometimes I'm like, I'm okay to say, yeah, that's fine, I've got time in my day, which if I do, then what am I saying? No, I'm not going to do that for you for. There's no reason other than also trying to get my own little angry demon out.
Yes.
You know, and creating more power and control. But if I genuinely have somewhere to be and go, which often I do, then I'm okay to say to them, look, I really can't. I really hear that you're really upset and you really want the thing, but I really can't. I now have somewhere to be and I do not have time to go home again. I have to tell you, 9 times out of 10, another mum in the schoolyard would have a solution for them.
Yeah, yeah.
That their own mum was not willing to give them.
Yeah.
So,
but I also, I mean, that could be seen as mean, or that could be seen as inspiring them to be resourceful.
yeah, but I have to tell you, since they've been writing,
they are naturally more resourceful.
I haven't had any of those. Now I'm reflecting on it. I haven't had any of those problems since they've been getting themselves strong from school.
Could that be because you've pulled out the safety blanket for them? So they have to think more like, oh, I'm on my own now, so what do I need?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Well, I dare say it is. I mean, I haven't thought about it until you've just brought it up. But yeah, look, I would ebb and flow, but I really have to self-check my own inner woundings, because it is. They hit those spots of, you know, I'm disorganized, I'm not enough, I've not measured up to that bar, I'm not perfectionist. And they're all my own triggers. And I'm reading that situation as that. It doesn't mean it is that. So, you know, really spend time working on myself with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. Yeah.
And so how I respond to them varies. But I do find it interesting that when I step away, who steps up? And that's the beauty of a intimate community, I think, too, because those mums around me are willing to co-parent versus just watch it and not really have much to say or do because they don't really know you very well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, oh, JD,
poor kid.
I've got a spare drink bottle, just go to my car and get it, you know, or whatever. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. And they're like, oh, JD, I'll look after you. And how much does that serve too, though, right?
It really does.
It
helps them build those connections.
Yeah.
And feel that sense of warmth. And
and when they're not getting warmth from this mother, they're getting warmth from another mother.
Yeah.
And who can judge that that's wrong, right?
Yeah.
Because they have a mother here and they have a mother there and they have a mother
in some form.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So night jobs and morning jobs have definitely saved my sanity. Can I say it that way? But same as what you're doing.
Yeah.
But you got to work out what your pain points are and then work out what your solution is.
I think that's the key, because I think our natural animal sort of response is to go into blame. Like, you know, you haven't been organised enough, or you didn't think of this, or you didn't do that. But when we can start to turn it back on ourselves and go, okay, what do I need to be able to bring more spaciousness to what's going on here, to enable the whole family to work. And that's, I think, where the gold is. I think for me, a lot of my preparation really came from knowing, okay, I'm making this shift by choice to go from the kinder or school around the corner that we can walk to, and the school that takes up to 45 minutes to drive to each way.
It's brutal.
So I can either resent that choice and have days where I, hate it, or I can accept that this is the choice I've made. So therefore, what do I need to put in place to make that choice feel more effortless? Because it's all a choice how we want to perceive what's going on for us. And I knew that I needed to bring greater organisation to that, so that I wouldn't turn around 6 months down the track or whenever and make it about that thing that's the problem, versus what I'm bringing to it, the energy that I'm bringing to it.
I love it. So do you want to talk about other transitions? Because in our transitions toolkit, we talked about, I'm trying to remember now, we talked about definitely variations of emotional transitions. So, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you.
Oh, sorry. Thanks. We talked about tears. We talked about shutdown. Was there something else we did? Anger, maybe?
Yeah.
And then we talked about transitions for us and transitions for our children. I mean, is there anything there you want to pull apart?
I think there's a couple that are going on for me at the moment. One of them is transitions in terms of sleep and creating greater distance in sleep with my toddler and noticing where she's got a bit of a what we might call like a control pattern, or a pattern that she's stuck in that's keeping her up. And I was explaining to Julie before we started recording that, I've now had to put in an intervention with myself and her around needing to make sure that I'm wearing a bra to bed so that I don't feed her earlier than I actually want to be feeding her in the night, so that she stops. Because, we have only done morning and night feeds for quite a long time now, probably since she was about 1. But, lately it's crept earlier and earlier, and she's asking for milk at about 4 o'clock in the morning. And some mornings when I'm like absolutely shattered, I'll do it. But what I see that then manifest as is an anxiety in her looking for it, looking for that soothing in the night and looking for that soothing earlier and earlier. And, we could either go into the, oh, poor thing, I'll just give her what she needs. She's got this need that needs to be fulfilled. Or we can recognise that as part of a dynamic and what our own needs are. And, I have a strong need for boundaries around bedtime now. And I have a strong belief that she can independently sleep well when she's well supported. So, a transition for us is me realising now that I'm going to need to put in place things to govern myself, which is wearing a bra to bed so I don't feed her in my half asleep, space. And continually reiterating to her that we're going to be having our feed in the morning when the sun's up and we're on the couch. We are not feeding in bed. And that is a transition, and transitions are painful. She has pain around this, and I can see it because she's really getting grizzly about it. She's not enjoying it. She fights it, but I'm okay to hold that space for her and for myself, trusting that it's okay for her to feel upset about that. And I will listen, but that's still the limit that I'm holding. And, I think that this is when we can become more okay with tears, is when we can also check in with how we ourselves are feeling about. As in the congruence with the choice. Yeah, our level of congruence. A lot of my son even, I'm sure a lot of it's to do with, all the stuff he's processing around prep. I mean, yesterday, my husband left for he had to go to work yesterday afternoon. I had the morning out getting my hair done. He's like, oh, the kids were great. You've had such a nice morning. And then he goes out and I've got 4 hours with him. And I got the most rotten 4 hours out of him that I've had in weeks. And I'm kind of just walking to the bathroom going, okay, it's bath time, And that was really because he brought me all of the stuff that was stored up that he knew was safe to let go of because I kept showing up to it. Even when he threw a glass jar and it smashed against the bloody, outside veranda. And he looks at it and he goes, good. He was gone. He was gone, right? Yeah. And they call us into... How did you do that? How did you hold that space and hold that space and hold that space? Yeah. Kept breathing a lot. So breathing into my belly. And breath is really... I mean, we talk about it a lot, but I've also noticed with you, it's very much a connection from head to body, isn't it? Yes. I have really noticed that with you, that you talk a lot about breath work for a very good reason, that you have worked out your pathway from a head trigger to body presence. Yeah, it's a big one for me because I can be naturally very in my head and bring myself back to my body and into my breath. Gives me that moment of pause to recognize the space in between us and what's going on for him, is separate to what's triggering me, and he just simply needs to be allowed an outlet to move it. But it was everything, and there was just tears and tears and tears. And I love tears, because I see them as really healing and cathartic for him to release. But there's sometimes a point where I really got to sit in with myself and go, how much can I handle right now? You know, and I kept going. Even it was happening at bedtime as well. And it was the little things that he wanted. And I could see that it was never the thing. It was just the thing that was the catalyst for him to crash against. And sometimes, you know, we can't hold it. And like I said to myself, I said, I actually can't listen to anymore right now. Like, I really need to go and have a shower. I need time with Dad now. So I hear you want to do that, but it's not happening tonight. And even to be getting congruent with myself around what is okay for me to listen to in that moment and what is not okay is really important for our kids to see too, because that's them witnessing authenticity at play. And also them learning that, oh, I don't have to always be all things to everyone. And even if I'm not feeling the capacity to be even with a friend who's asking too much of me, I don't have to. I can listen back to my inner compass. And so it was just a lovely, as much as it was painful yesterday afternoon, I didn't want to deal with it all. It was just that really nice reflection on how much when we begin to make okay the spectrum of feelings in ourselves and in our children, that dance is constantly happening back and forth. The more that we can listen to them, the more we can listen to ourselves, the more we can listen to ourselves, the more we can listen to in them. And they're always giving us that opportunity, I think.
I love that. That's a big shift for you. Like, that's huge growth that I'm hearing in that story.
Yeah.
From even a year ago for you. That's huge growth.
Oh, and I think too, for me also, it's dancing and a real painful edge around sibling dynamics, because, you know, he starts to get hurtful to her, you know, and he uses his body to hurt her, which my brother and I used to just play punch and kick and fight. That was our thing. Which, you know, we found fun, but we also hurt each other. We didn't have words. And I really want to give my kids words. But I can still hear the anger that comes out sometimes when I'm trying to set that boundary, but I'm still triggered in the setting of the boundary. So it's just, I don't want to anyone think I've got it nailed, because I'm so often going, fuck, is this the right way to say this? And, you know, is he really like going to hear this well? And, you know, I think it's healthy to constantly self-check around that. But definitely I know that there's triggers for me with the sibling stuff. So that's calling me into more healing work.
Well, and it's upskilling as well, isn't it? Every time you dismantle a layer, you also gain a new layer of tools.
Yeah. Well, because I used to be able to hold space very easily for him when it was just myself I had to protect. You know, I could grab his arms and I could stop him from hurting me. But now it's stopping him from hurting me and stopping him from hurting her. You know, so it's another person that I'm now having to, who is not at the age yet where she can do that for herself. So that's my role. And so there's a whole new like area of triggers to kind of sit in and wade through.
I really get that. I really get that. But I absolutely love that. What I wonder if we can just tease out a bit too is, because I'm pretty sure in our last masterclass of tears, which certainly look back on, we, you know, talked a lot about the philosophy and the theory underpinning holding space for tears and why we do it and how you transform them from being painful to being healing.
Yes.
The next layer upon that is what I've heard you say, which is what we start to talk about, is where attachment and aware parenting goes so far in looking after and meeting our child's needs that we often can get to the point of burnout and self-sacrifice so much for ourselves that we've lost who we are. Our relationship is disintegrated with ourselves and with our partners, and we can't seem to work out how to love on this child in the way that perhaps we perceive we were not, but also to show up for ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if we can talk a bit about that, because that is a big shift in philosophy from particularly, you know, attachment meeting all needs and I'll give you whatever you need. And if you're showing up saying I need breastfeeding 5 times a night, then that's what I need to do.
Yeah. And
aware parenting, while there's tears there, I need to be here to hold them until they go. You've shifted both of those beliefs. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's fine. I noticed even last night when I had said to Hugo, look, you know, I'm here and I'm listening right now, but I'm not going to be able to listen to it all tonight, and I'm going to say goodnight. And I knew that I was leaving him and he was feeling sad. And I know there was a point at which I would have really struggled to do that.
Yeah, so what do you think is the difference there?
I think it's because I recognise that I feel like he is safe to be with the full spectrum of his own feelings sometimes. And that I don't need to be, because he's going to find himself on the playground sometimes where he needs to be with how it feels to be sad on your own. And so I think it's also beneficial for him to feel like how it feels to be sad on your own when you're in home and know that you're going to be okay. Because if I'm always the person who's there to listen to everything, then who listens when I'm not there? I think that sometimes we can do too much of the work that they have capacity to do within themselves, particularly as he's getting older, and he's been very well versed in this for years now. It's a natural opportunity for him to build that inner resilience without needing to lean on me for it all of the time. And I don't know when that key shift was made, but I think the more and more you recognize what's yourself and what's your child and trying to find the distance between the two, I recognize the benefits to the challenges for him as I look and recognize more of the benefits to my own challenges for me. The more that I parent my own inner child and see the times that I might have felt alone and lonely and what they gave me means that I can then see, sometimes when you're alone and lonely and sad, that will give you things too, as opposed to feeling like I'm always having to be stuck in that inner wound of my own story. I think that's key.
What about in terms of meeting your child's needs? So that is the added thing we put on online parenting is really coming back into alignment of who you are and being able to read beyond what we want to perceive is simply child need versus family dynamic or mother-child dynamic, and that it's still in and of itself perfect and trying to get needs met, but that we don't need to fall into, well, I must and I must and I must and I have to keep going and I have to keep, and because it's what they need and that's what they need, and if I don't do that, there's damage.
Well, I mean, that's a belief. Like, we know that that's a belief that we've taken, that we tend to take on, whether that's we've read too many books, or we're stuck in our own, story of how we were left alone and no one cared for us, and so therefore I need to do all of the caring and all of the, being there that wasn't there for me. It's usually one of those two things, either a belief that we've subordinated to, or an inner story that we're stuck in. And so once you can start to I guess pull apart each of those things and see how they're not so black and white, I think it enables us to bring more fluidity to our parenting and also check in more. Like, I think a lovely mantra to sort of have or guiding principle is the idea that the boundary is the moment that we're about to lose ourselves. So if we continue to go past boundaries that are speaking to us, then we are going to continue to end up yelling, end up, disconnected, end up overwhelmed, all of those feelings, because we haven't listened to the point at which we inwardly were asking ourselves to set a boundary. And boundaries don't have to look like, storming out or rudeness or anger. They can look like really calm, and
holding your sacred ground.
Yeah.
Not puffing up, not shrinking.
Just standing true and just saying, I'm not able to continue to hear this right now, or I am not willing to let you speak to me like that right now, so I am going to go over here for a couple of minutes so that I can get some space back, and then I will come and talk to you. And it's that kind of thing. And then I think about, if you've got beliefs coming up, for yourself about, it's not, I couldn't say that, or it's, it's mean, or, I've got to listen to them. I always think, what about in the schoolyard? What about how much you laying the blueprint for boundaries, how much that gifts them in what that they can take into their world when you're not there? Because I see that now, like, in the conversations that we have, on the way home from the car, and school kids can be mean.
Oh, they're really mean.
And
school is in and of itself, the playground is a rite of passage.
Oh my gosh, like the stuff he tells me, and and
that's why I also think it's ludicrous, even, well, I know this is totally a segue, but with sexual stuff, because let me tell you, they are hearing everything on the playground.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what's happening in your house.
Yeah.
So they can either hear it from you, or they can hear it from someone you have no idea what their context is.
Exactly. That's a reason for empowering them younger. So I think that boundary and exploring your beliefs around placing boundaries is really worthwhile.
Yeah. I really love that.
What about you?
No, it's like same. But I was just really curious because I guess I've moved past that, whereas you've in recent times transformed that. So I was really interested in the acute phase of that transition versus me, who it's already part of a pattern of. And I think it can be hard to connect to that if you're not there yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. I certainly for a long time did look at you and go, how do you kind of do that? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't there.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to go back and join those dots sometimes too, because it's been so long since
if it becomes you, then it's harder to go, oh, that happened then. And
so I was really interested in how you'd done that, because I can really witness that change. And it's just, I can feel in my body the empowerment and the sense of sacred self that comes from you as you're saying that. And I just think, gosh, that's beautiful. Like,
it's a nice place to, and
gorgeous place to be in your motherhood.
Yeah. And I think when you can do that, you can also recognize, I do have more capacity for other things that I love or other things in my life. And I don't need to be all things to everybody.
That burnout actually transforms. Yeah.
So if you too find yourself hitting edges of new transitions you're being called into, or just really wanting to find the connection and fluidity and joy back in your parenting dynamics, then we would love to invite you to join our Aligned Parenting program, which we've now opened up for lifetime access. So you can pay in one payment of $197 or 3 payments of $66. And you get to dive in with us and expand more of your parenting toolkit and more of yourself in that dynamic.
Which is a big part, isn't it? Because you've got to nourish the mother to rock the family.
Absolutely.
We also love you connecting with us and listening. And if you have 5 seconds, please rate us on iTunes or leave a review on Facebook.
I just spotted the most gorgeous
I know, I cannot.
iTunes.
I was like nearly in tears reading that. It was amazing.
So thank you, I think it was Rosie Bear. Thank you, whoever Rosie Bear is, because that was just like, this is so divine. And I had to put it on social media because I was like, thank you. Anyway, so we do read them all and we do really appreciate them.
Yeah. And to connect with us is on Nourishing the Mother on Facebook and Instagram, nourishingthemother.com.au. And to connect with you, Bridget,
it's suburbansandcastles.com.
And your next movies?
We've got Swim Team. We've also got The Pathological Optimist.
I'm looking forward to Swim Team, actually, because that's revolving around autistic children, isn't it?
Yeah. It's really interesting. So we're just putting the final touches on that one, which is happening on the 20th of March.
Great. Well, I'd love to see that.
Cool.
And to connect with me is thepleasurenutritionist.com. And
remember to nourish the woman to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.